say this to people all the time. I go, people who and you don't have to just graduate high school. This could be any point in your life, but especially when you're like just out of high school, I tell people, I go, what do you want to do? And they go, well, I want to go, you know, paint in New York, or I want to, or whatever the thing is. And I go, then you better go do it.
Right. Yeah.
Then you better go do it, because if you don't do this, if you don't do it now, then all the stuff that you maybe want to do later on, you won't do. It's almost like, it's like yesterday when I was telling you about when I wake up in the morning and I have to work out first thing. If I don't work out first thing, then the whole day's fucked.
Yeah.
And I can't, I'll eat, I'll go to fucking Sheets and I'll, you know, get a whatever fried because I've already screwed up, you know? I really do believe that when you first get out in the world, you're free to do it. You gotta do it. Even if it doesn't pan out, you know that it's possible, and you started that momentum of your adult brain of being like, oh, okay, if I want to do something, I can just go do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I've known throughout the years that didn't do things, and it's okay if you don't, but I think about when they tell me, man, I really want to do this now, I want to do that, but they don't think it's possible. And it's because they never, at the time that you are so optimistic, you need to do that.
Yeah.
Because it sets the tone for the rest of your life.
What's up, dude?
What's up, man?
Good to have you on finally.
Yeah, it's so good to be here, man.
Yeah. So, for people who don't know, you're a stand-up comic.
I am. I'm a stand-up comic. I've been doing stand-up for about 6.5 years. Before that, I was a professional wrestler, so I did that for a while. But my adult life has basically been chasing.
Yeah.
I've been chasing, man, you know? And so this is it, man.
So when did you know you were an artist?
I think I recognized it until I started professional wrestling, you know, because up until then it was just an extracurricular activity.
Right.
You know, it was, I didn't realize the impact that all those extracurricular activities had on me, that shaped me to want to be an artist. And so I think it was when I started wrestling, and then it just kind of clicked. You know, I was like, wow, I'm creating. Yeah. You know, like this is crazy. And not only am I creating, but I'm creating for the purpose of like I want to get something back. Like I'm trying to like make it a career. Yeah. You know, and that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is what I do. You know, and I think that was the first time.
Yeah, I think there's the thing with artists, you always have to express yourself.
Yeah.
And I know for me, it started out with more traditional styles of art, like drawing and painting and stuff like that as a child, as far as I can remember. And but then as I got older, there was more of an appeal for performance art. Yeah. But I grew up in a small town, so there wasn't really a lot of possibility for that. It was a little bit frowned upon when I was a kid, and where I grew up, you know, it was
foolish.
Yeah, it was a waste of time, or
you're not working, you ain't right. You know,
right.
Exactly.
Like doing something with your hands or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Well, we all know. I think that we all know that we can graduate high school, we could go to college if we want to, and we can get a job, and we can actually sustain a life. And I think that's so it's so obtainable. It's comfortable, and I think that our parents and most people are like, why don't you just do that? Like that seems more feasible than this crazy dream that you have. Yeah. And so I think it's, especially when you grow up in a small town like you did, it's easy to just think that way.
I think it depends on resources too. You know, like I grew up poor, so for me, just pursuing art was like pursuing poverty.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Yes. So it was not a good path for me at the time. I didn't want to. I'd been poor my whole life, so for me, I wanted to make money, and then if I was successful enough in business, then I could pursue art. Yeah. And always pursuing art secondary, you know, like at the same time. Yeah. But as I got older, like the desire to express myself became more intense, and I finally had to do something. So that's when I got into acting 10 years ago, and then that led me into comedy, and I love comedy. Yeah. And also writing. You know, I really got into fictional writing, screenwriting and stuff when I started acting, and then writing short films or You know, hope to be short films at the time, and then full length scripts and stuff like that, and really enjoyed the writing experience. But then when I got into the comedy, it's both. You know, it's the writing and the performance and the expression. So it's I think that's the one I really love. And also music. You know, when I was a kid, I did. You know, we've recently started playing some music together.
Hard, yeah.
It's been fun, and I know when I was 16, I always wanted to play music as a child. Like growing up, it's another form of expression. And I know most of the artists that I know, no matter what type of art they do, they all like music just about. Mm-hmm. I mean, even you played the bass guitar, right, Seth? Yeah. So, and we know a lot of comics that play musical instruments and stuff, or they paint or draw.
They use something other than
more than one way of expression, one form of expression. And when I was a kid, I really wanted to play the guitar. And I finally, when I was 16, I had my own money, had a job, you know, so I bought my own guitar and started playing. But back then we didn't have YouTube or really the internet. Yeah. I mean, the internet was a brand new thing back then. And so we didn't have resources to learn. You had to spend money to take lessons.
You had to go to the music shop and ask the dude that owned it, do you do music lessons? Right. Or do you know anybody that does music lessons?
Yeah. So I just learned on my own, and I would just jam with friends and stuff back then. And I played throughout the years occasionally. And then when I met you, we were hanging out at my house, and I've been playing the drums since like 2017, maybe a little bit, trying to play the drums. And just more of like just a hobby, just a creative expression. I'd sit down and play the drums before I'd write.
Yep.
Because it gets you sort of warmed up and kind of gets me out of the business mind and into the more creative.
Frees you up.
Yeah. Allows my mind to be free. Yeah. And I was like, and I knew you mentioned you were a drummer, so I was like, dude, you want to try out the drum set? And I thought, well, you know, Jeremy will play the drums, and I'll get some ideas. Maybe you can teach me a few things that I'm missing. And I was like, well, I'll just grab the guitar while you play. And we just started jamming, and I was like, does this sound kind of cool?
Is this fun? Are we having fun? Yeah.
Did we just become best friends?
Yup. Are you guitarist? I'm a drummer. Yup.
That's funny, yeah. Step brothers. Yeah, that's good. But no, it was cool, and I was like, oh, okay, this is why I wanted to play music, and so it kind of reignited that part of my expression too. So, you know, we're going to start that Twitch channel, Cosmic Panda.
It's going to be great. Yeah, it's called Cosmic Panda. And it's you hear it here first, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be amazing. You know, the funny thing is that when we first started playing, you were on the drums and I picked up the guitar.
Oh, that's right.
And I know dick about the guitar. I know nothing. I mean, I know a couple things, but like as far as chords, And I remember I was like, I'll just play. I think I was playing Brain Stew by Green Day.
Oh yeah.
As you were doing the drums, that's all I know. And then we were like, how about we just switch? Or then it was like click, boom, and it like all came together, you know?
Well, sort of.
Well, yeah.
More for you, but
yeah, it's been coming together. And no, man, it's been a lot of fun. And the cool thing about that, like you said about that expression, is that it frees your mind up to be able to like let go of other things that like are weighing you down. And then you can like it's almost like getting rid of the garbage that's on top of all of the creative expression that you can bring out. Mm-hmm. And so music's really important for that.
Yeah, it frees my mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And helps me loosen up, because I'm a pretty uptight guy.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm working on business projects and stuff like that. So it's difficult sometimes to go from the analog
to creative,
like an analog state of mind, to a more flowy, creative, obscure, like abstract,
less linear.
Less linear state of mind.
Absolutely.
And sort of and it allows me to trust my mind more, because you know I'm not
thinking about
in my head thinking about what I'm saying or
if I mess up this drum solo, I'm not going to lose $1 million.
Yeah,
it's a lot less pressure.
Yeah.
It's like you can have more fun with it.
Well, it's funny. We were talking about that the other night. We were playing, and it was just like him and I get into these modes where I don't even understand what I'm going to do next. It's just it just happens, and it's a momentary decision that I make in that exact moment to do the thing that I'm doing in that moment. It's very, there's nothing about it that is like like even for a half a second premeditated.
I'd love
It
to
just
see our
happens.
brain waves when that happens, because I feel like, or I know we're communicating with each other, and it's like I'll say something to you through the guitar, and then you respond with the drums.
It's an intuitive dance.
Yeah.
You know, because I know exactly what you're doing.
Because you're creating like the waves that we're surfing on, and it's really amazing. It's very magical.
I create the wave and you're hanging 10.
Yeah.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
just
Like
surfing
you're
on
up
it,
there like, surfing
It's
on
fun.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more I learn about the fretboard and about the guitar, the more cool things we find when we play.
And the more we do that when we play, we found the more that it helps us being free on stage with our stand-up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, because it lets you believe that, oh, this is possible. I can actually let go.
We have some fun writing sessions too when we jam.
Yeah, we do.
So,
yeah, I mean, even last night we were jamming, and then we all in the middle of our jam, we had like a 45-minute writing session. It felt like.
Yeah, we actually it was half of the jam session was just writing.
It was just writing. Yeah.
Found some cool stuff, and I found some more stuff after that. And this morning, I re-listened to that.
Me too.
That writing session, and also the writing session from the
Was
mic.
this
mic last
before
night.
or after the
After.
writer's mic? After?
After, yeah. And so I got some new stuff, new
Yeah.
material, like quite a bit of
Nice.
like
Yeah.
a pretty good little
That's a
chunk of
good
new
feeling.
material. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, the everything is like, I mean, the world is stressful. Life is stressful. And so when you're dealing in this stressful environment of life, and then you sit down and you go, let me write some stuff out. It's really hard.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
but like,
true. To get motivated.
yeah, but then all of a sudden, like we said, if you can clear your head and get in a creative space, then all of a sudden these ideas just start coming. And it's like magic, actually. I think it's because it's the recipe to get that started is the same every time.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to trick it. I know how to do it. I just need to get into creative space, and then all of a sudden, boom, I can start writing.
Yeah,
you know?
it's music's an easy way for me to get into like a happy place in my mind.
Yep.
And then once all the stress and anxiety goes away, then I can really start to create.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, man.
Did you ever get anything like that in wrestling? Did you ever get in that state in wrestling in the ring or anything like that? Like feeding off another
Hit your head really
fighter?
hard.
Yeah.
I think that so with wrestling, it is a form of expression. It allows you to in the moment play the part of a person, of like a character, right? So like in the moment, you can be very creative, and you get very creative in that headspace because you're
it's not you.
Well, for me, it wasn't me. I think that was my downfall.
Mm.
But for me, it was like for wrestling for me was like for me, not for everybody, but for me, it was like an immature expression. Like I was trying to express expression from an immature mindset. Like I wasn't mature enough to approach wrestling like I should have, like I approached comedy. So I think that there were times for that creative space, but I wasn't allowing it.
So you looked at it more as like an athlete than an artist.
I at the time I did, yeah. I think the reason why was because creatively I had it, like it's just a natural thing, but athletically I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
So I focused a lot on trying to be a good athlete.
I've seen some of your footage. It was really impressive, the stuff you could do, man.
Thanks, man. It was I was not an athlete growing up at all. I did Pee-wee. I did Little League baseball for 6 years, but that didn't define me. That's just a thing I thought you did. You know what I mean? Like
That's the same with me. I was just like, well, everybody does it. I didn't know I didn't have to.
yeah,
You just
Like,
have
if
to pick one, right?
Yeah, like if I told my parents, I don't really want to do this, they would have definitely been like, okay.
for real.
But I was just like, I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah,
I
I'm
played
supposed to play
baseball too, but I loved it though.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I liked it until 12-year-olds were pitching. Like I liked T-ball.
I was the pitcher.
Yeah.
That's why you liked it so much.
Yeah. I love the pitching machine. I love all that. And then as soon as we turned 12, and then we were pitching to each other, and I had 12-year-olds throwing 55-mile-an-hour balls.
You're a big target.
Yeah, dude. And so what happened was, this is when I quit baseball. I was 12 and I was on the plate, and the whole season I was like, I know something's wrong with this. I shouldn't be standing here letting these people throw this ball at me. This is dangerous, right? It's got to be dangerous. And then I got hit in the ass I turned, got hit in the ass, and I cried all the way to first base.
$1 million wound.
Yeah, dude. And I told my dad after that game, I go, I'm not playing baseball after this. I'm not. This is the last year.
That's funny.
And because I didn't do a lot of sports. I tried football for 3 weeks, but I faked a knee injury because I didn't like it.
The last
I love that sentence. I tried football for 3 weeks.
the last year I played baseball, I was 13, and I was a pretty good pitcher for a 13-year-old. I could throw a 70-mile-an-hour fastball, so it was quick.
That's really good.
And there was another guy on our team. His name's Luke. Her name was Luke, and he was a good pitcher too. And he was like the backup pitcher.
Yeah.
And he and I were always kind of competing. And he was actually a little better player than me overall. Like he could hit better than me and stuff. But nobody could pitch better than I could. Yeah. And we were in practice one day, and I was pitching to him, and I hit him. And I was like, oh, shit. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry, man. And I knew he was going to get me because he was going to be pitching when I was up to bat. And sure enough, he nailed me right in the arm. He just threw it right at me. I was like,
I thought you were going to say he did the Nolan Ryan and charged the mound at you.
Yeah.
He hit me. I can't remember exactly where he hit me, but it had like
he hit you in the leg.
It was in the arm, but I had the stitch imprints on me. But he had them on him too, so we were even.
That's funny. In wrestling, we call that a receipt.
Oh, that's funny.
If you tag me, I get to tag you. I give you a receipt.
Yeah.
But I really didn't mean to hit him though. So Luke, if you remember that and you're out there watching this, which you're probably not, but I really didn't mean to hit you with that baseball.
That's funny.
We'll have Luke on next week.
I rarely hit people.
It's been bothering Neil for 20 years, 30 years.
That's the first time I've thought about it in a long time.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I didn't push myself athletically until I was in a senior year of high school. I knew I was going to go into professional wrestling, and so I told my dad, I gotta learn how to take a hit. I got to figure this out. Yeah. And I never lifted weights before, and so I took Lifetime Fitness my senior year of high school, so I could learn how to lift weights and stuff. And then I read Mick Foley's first book, Have a Nice Day. When I was in high school, and he talked about how he wasn't athletic growing up either, but what he did to toughen him up for wrestling was his senior year of high school, he tried out for lacrosse.
Oh, okay.
And so I was like, I guess I'll play lacrosse. And that lasted about 3 practices. And I was like, no, too much running.
That's funny.
The guy goes, I remember the coach goes, everybody needs to average at least 15 miles a week. Yeah, and I was like, right, yeah. I don't even do a mile every month. So like, this is not going to work. I just honestly wanted to hit people.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to stand there and defend because I knew that like you couldn't. If I got you, there's no way you're getting me down.
With your stature, you probably would have been pretty good at football if you just stuck with it.
I would have been good, man. I was so afraid of rough and toughness when I was a kid. Yeah. I was so afraid of it, man.
That's ironic.
I know,
yeah,
right?
That's funny. I played football for 1 year in 6th grade, and it was horrible because I was too small.
Oh.
I just got ragdolled every practice. The practice is what sucked. The games were fun. Practice was just like torture.
Yeah, man.
It was like 2 older dudes watching a bunch of kids destroy each other for 2 hours.
For quitters.
Yeah,
that's funny. Well, if it had to do with like athleticism and brute force when I'm performing, I was totally fine with that. Yeah. What it was I didn't have. This is exactly what it was. I didn't have confidence in myself to be equally athletic as you are. I just thought I was not. I just thought I wasn't that, and so I didn't have any confidence. And so I think if I had more confidence in that growing up, I think I would have done more football.
My dad was a really good athlete, and he was a really strong dude too. He used to work out and stuff at home when I was a kid, and so I started working out when I was like 8.
Dang,
like lifting weights and lightly. And so I was always athletic and strong. I was not big, but I was pretty strong. And then, but when I got into skateboarding, I really loved that. When I was probably 13. That came after baseball, because after baseball I started working and I couldn't play sports, like team sports anymore.
Yeah.
As I started working at 14, and I never stopped because I wanted to make my own money so I could buy nicer clothes.
Yeah,
I was wearing yard sale clothes and shit like that. And it was kind of embarrassing.
Yeah,
and nothing against my parents; they couldn't afford anything else. But
as a kid, that's hard.
But yes, when I was old enough to start making my own money, that changed everything for me. And skateboarding was a great sport for me because I was athletic and I wanted to be active.
Yeah.
and I could skateboard at night. You know, I could skateboard when I wasn't working or in school, you know, and on my own time, anytime.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the guitar. You
Yeah.
know, like guitar was just something I could do on my own, you know, or I could go jam with my buddies on the weekend.
Yeah.
You know? So it's those things have always been sort of appealing to me. And I'm still kind of the same way. Like I always want to do my own thing. Like even playing
You
guitar.
totally do, yeah.
I don't want to learn other people's songs, although I'm sure there's some benefit in that. I'll probably do some of that, but I want to just keep. When I do something, I want to keep doing it until I understand it, and then I can start to develop that craft or that ability. And it's like that with comedy too. I mean, there's definitely a structure to comedy, but you know, it kind of has to be uniquely your thing, and you just have to find it. And and it's so difficult.
The bones are there, but you gotta put that meat on them.
The raw ingredients are there, right? And it's like we all make a different kind of curry, even though we use the same ingredients.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It all tastes different.
Yeah. So it's I feel you, man. That's and you know,
with my daughter, I'm really encouraging her expression instead of like telling her how to do things. I'm just encouraging her to express herself, and it's working. Like I can see it in her artwork and her writing and stuff. Like she's in everything she does. Really, she has a really unique way of learning things. She has a good she has an incredible memory, so she remembers everything. And so I'll see her just make these little corrections as she learns things, and they just get better and better and better and better. So her artwork is becoming really cool and uniquely hers, and it's good. Like for a 6-year-old, her art is really good.
Yeah,
and it's very creative and unique to her. Like when I see it, like if I saw 20 different drawings, I could easily pick out Isla's drawings because it has a very specific style to it, and I could see in 10 years from now that style is going to be amazing.
And that self-expression that she has isn't even like nothing is infiltrating that.
Right.
Like whatever that is, it's purely her. Because she has no bias, no nothing. It's just purely her.
I mean, she's taking in information like we all are. But it's definitely her way of articulating that information.
She wouldn't question it as much as we would question ourselves doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even when she plays the djembe drum, she plays the drum. She has her own little style. And
we were playing drums the other night, and she was playing the drums with me, and she figured out when to hit the cymbal.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? What? And I was like, let's do this again. And there she go, boom. And I go,
perfectly
okay.
on time.
Yeah. And I go, okay. And then I was like, okay, this is how you count. This is a 4 count. And then you could tell when I told her, she goes, huh? And then I did it, and she goes, oh. And then every time on one, I was like, this is ridiculous, man.
Yeah, it was cool.
Such a sponge, man. Yeah.
Such a plastic brains. Also, kids don't have that thing in their brain where people have told them that's not how you do it. You don't have that.
Yes.
You don't have that part of your brain. It's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this.
I'm trying to scrape all that shit out of my brain.
It's gunk that we're just, collected.
Yes. Social pressures.
Yeah. So you're talking about confidence, like not having it, Jeremy. When did you like kind of find that to go in the ring and to get on stage, and what made you find it? What was that journey?
A lot led up to that. I've been performing in front of people since I was about 5. Whether if it was, I performed lots of music. I performed lots of recitals, and I took like a jazz dance class when I was 6, and we had a bunch of recitals. And then I joined the Kiwanis Boys Choir, and I sang for them for 4 years. And like we would sing in front of like hundreds and hundreds of people, and like so I've always kind of like, I think that sparked a thing where I was like, oh, I can do things in front of people. That's just what you do.
They're not going to eat me.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then when I got into high school, I met my friend Cody Crow, and he was like, he was a wrestling fan, and he goes, you can just go like pay money, and somebody will train you how to be a professional wrestler. I was like, no way. And he goes, and he showed me the website and everything. And this is like 99, know? And I was like, this is crazy. And so from that point on, I started doing, we had a backyard wrestling federation. It was called FOW, Freaks of Wrestling. And so my buddy Cody, his dad had passed away a few years before that, and he had all this money. So he bought all the ingredients. That's not the word. All the equipment, all the supplies. To I know I'm still thinking of curry.
That works. That's accurate.
We all make a different curry, brother.
Yeah.
And they spices. All right.
He had some extra stuff in his curry.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because he, bless his heart, he didn't buy a ring for us to put together. He bought what he thought were the materials to make an actual ring.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it was like a bunch of metal, just a shit ton of metal. You know what I mean?
Comfy.
And so we set it up at our friend Donnie and Dusty's house and in their backyard. They used to live like up on the hill. It's like a big desert area. So we set it up there, and their stepdad welded everything together.
This is in Idaho, right?
This is in Idaho. Yeah, it's in Boise. And he welded everything together. And and the ring was cemented in the ground. It was not moving. That's where it was. Like the springs we had underneath it were like car coil springs. Like
oh, wow.
It was like
It was a stiff ring.
It was stiff, bro. Yeah. And so we did that, and then we started putting on our own shows. And not only were we putting on our own shows live in front of people, but we'd record it, and then we were on public access television every week.
Really?
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Wow.
every Friday we had I called it Friday Night Bash is what it was, and so every Friday if you tuned in at Channel 11 at like 9:00, you'd see our show that we did.
Awesome.
That's cool, man. How old were you?
16.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. What was your wrestling name?
My name was Jay. Just Jay.
Just the letter J?
No last name, not Jay. Just Jay. And that was my slogan, was I'm just Jay. And I looked not much different than I do now. I just didn't have a beard. And it was fun, man. Like we had music, it was the whole Thog Machine, we had everything, and so that really boosted up my confidence for like wrestling, because I knew that I think confidence of being in front of people was okay, but I'd only done the music medium. I'd never really done anything, and so that really gave me a lot of confidence. When people would, and my junior year of high school, we also did the school talent show, and we did professional wrestling.
That's awesome.
And when I tell you that it was the coolest thing on the fucking bill that year, it was the coolest thing on the bill. Because we put a lot of effort into that. We it was tag team. My buddy Cody and Erhard was the one tag team, and they came from behind the curtain. So this was in the auditorium.
Yeah.
Right. They came from behind the curtain with a fog machine. It was the Limp Bizkit rolling, and the whole thing. And the way we did it, everybody understood what was happening. They're like, "This is crazy," and the whole school was just going nuts. All 3 nights. And
you had multiple night talent
3 nights.
shows?
Yeah, we had to do it 3 nights in a row.
And you called it a bill too. I was just like, oh, okay, wow, a bill. I'm thinking of Idaho too. I'm thinking of Napoleon Dynamite dancing.
Oh, dude, I'm sure there was a lot of that too. But this is before Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah. But I went to a school with a lot of Napoleons.
Really?
Just very, very weird autistic Mormon kids. I mean, that's just what it was. It was just very, very. Anyways, yes, I went to school with Napoleon, so we, they come out, and then me and my buddy Jim, the Machine, not Bert Kreischer. He was actually called the Machine, and we came from behind. So like if you're in the auditorium and you're sitting and then the stage is in front of you, we came from the doors from behind as soon as the music hit, and we ran down the aisle and then slid on the stage and then did our pose, and then the whole match was fun and stuff. But I remember getting done with that first show, and we went into the back behind the curtain and stuff, and then we went into the hallway area of the school. And we were screaming and yelling. So, dude, I had never felt that amazing ever in my life. Ever in my life, I've never felt that amazing. And I remember we were screaming and yelling, and we were so happy. We were so loud that we were interrupting the next person who was going up.
Oh,
somebody pokes their head out and they go, "Hey guys, can you calm down?" And we're like, oh, we just didn't realize we were being so loud. But it was the best feeling I'd ever felt, dude. And I knew at that moment, that was the moment I go, okay, this is totally what I'm doing. There's no questioning. There's no second thought. This is exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I think that was the moment that I got confidence.
When did wrestling lead you to comedy?
I started at 18, and then I think by 20 or 21, age 21, if you ask the people that I used to wrestle with, they'll tell you Jeremy was a good worker. You know what I mean? Like, we all had passion. We all understood what was going on. We all were good gears for the engine that is professional wrestling.
Right.
But I was always felt like I was a little bit behind. You know what I mean? Like, I was around guys who were like world star athletes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like shit that I could never even fathom of doing.
Some genetic advantages.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I used to always feel a little inferior. And I just to myself. And we would go out after shows. And I remember I remember the name of the place, but it was after a WSPW show. I was 20 years old, and we went out to eat, and I was basically like, I was holding court. You know what I mean? Like, I was like in charge of the room. And I had realized in that moment, oh, this is what I do. Like this is where I actually do shine. And it was all my friends were getting booked in Japan and WWE and all these things. And because everybody wanted them for that talent, but I was always like wanted for the hang. Yeah. I was always wanted to be like, I don't know how this sounds, but like, Jeremy's a good time. So like I was the hang guy. And I realized that around 20 at that place that we were at. And I go, am I doing the wrong thing here? I remember thinking that. I go, if I'm so afraid every time I go in the ring because I feel like I'm not as good as these other guys, or like that did fire me up and got me to get better. But that feeling was just, I didn't have the confidence I think that I needed to honestly to be a real high level, successful guy in professional wrestling.
Right.
And I realized very quickly that my strengths were entertaining them with my mouth rather than through the art of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And I still stuck with wrestling because I'm loyal and that's what I chose, and there was no like, why did I do this? Like, I was like, I loved it still. It was never, but I knew from age 20, I go, maybe I did the wrong thing. And it wasn't just making people laugh that I was friends with. It was every day I would be with a new group of people because of like from the shows or whatever. Yeah. And it was the same thing every time. As I was this funny guy and I was the, over time I realized, okay, all right. It's not just something that just happens every now and again. Like, this is who I am. I do this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And, but I still stuck with wrestling, I just when I quit wrestling in 2012, I was 28. I knew that the next thing was I needed to do comedy,
Okay.
And it took me 4 years to get on stage. I didn't get on stage until 2016.
That sounds right.
Yeah. And because for me, this was me in wrestling, man. I felt like if and I've said this a bunch before, but like if pro wrestling was the ocean, I had dove down so deep that if I looked up, I didn't know which way was out of the water. You know what I mean? Like, it was like being in space and not knowing what's down, up, left, or right. I was there, and that's where I was going to be.
Yeah.
And so when I broke away from wrestling, when I realized that my addictions and just everything just had gotten in the way, and this just wasn't what I was doing anymore. When I realized that, it was so hard for me to like break away from wrestling. I felt like if I did anything else, I was cheating. Like, I was cheating on wrestling. Like, it was like
you wanted to see it through.
I did, man.
Yeah.
And also I've been in a relationship with pro wrestling since I was 5. I mean, like that's my identity.
Yeah.
In high school, I started, me and Jay, my buddy Jay, not me, my buddy Jay.
Not just Jay.
Yeah, not just Jay. This is the Jay, why Jay? And we started the pro wrestling club in high school.
Oh,
Like
wow.
my identity, my entire life wasn't, for whatever reason, wasn't bowling and music, which I haven't talked about bowling yet. Wasn't bowling and music. It was Jeremy's into wrestling, you know?
Yeah.
And then I went and did it and all these things. And so to break away from that and be like, wow, that's not a part of my shit anymore was so hard. It was so hard. It was the hardest breakup, you know, that I could ever imagine going through. I mean, obviously I love my wife. That would be harder, but like in my lifetime that I've dealt with, that was the hardest breakup I've ever had to go through.
Right.
And so it took me so long to get on stage. Number one, because I was scared.
Well, you were giving up on a dream.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And talk about you just feel so crappy, you know, like it's so it's such a bad feeling, man. Cause you spent, not only have you spent your entire adult life, like living for this thing, dude. Like I didn't do shit with my life for 10 years, but wrestling, like nothing. I didn't do anything but that. And so to be like, all right, well, that didn't work. It's like, well, oh my God, like you just don't know where you're at. You don't even know where the ground's at. You don't know where to jump off from. And so it took me a few years to really like, it's okay. Like I wasn't going to be hurting wrestling by starting comedy.
Would you consider it giving up? I mean, it sounds like it's just like a moving on.
Sounds like a good decision.
Yeah. I wouldn't consider it like, oh, I give it. It feels like more of a moving on thing.
Closing that chapter of the new one.
Just a different chapter.
Yeah.
I think now, I definitely feel that way.
Yeah.
You know,
that's good.
My first year of comedy, a couple of my buddies, Eric Cole and Dustin Shalafo, comics, they're huge wrestling fans. And WWE came to Boise for like a house show, and they got me tickets. Like, you want to go? Because you're like a wrestler, right? You want to go? And I was like, sure. And I went, and I had never been more depressed in my fucking life, dude. You know what I mean? Like here I am watching. I mean, I do this, or I did. You know what I mean? And and here I am in the nosebleeds. We paid $20 for this ticket, and I'm sitting here like, this is so depressing. And I told them after that, they're like, are you okay? I was like, dude, I did the best I could. That was the hardest that's the hardest thing. And so, but like quickly after that, I got over it. Like, I think what happened was, like, as corny as it sounds, I've always known since I was 20, I know that I should have been a comic, and I am a comic. And I knew that I was making the right decision, but I wasn't fully over my ex. You know what I'm saying? It was like I wasn't ready to go say I wasn't ready to eat lunch with my ex yet. You know, and ask her how things are going. Like I wasn't ready for that yet. And so it really hurt. But once I got more into comedy, and I knew that, like, okay, like once I started to think that I had some legs with some bits and doing this and that, and got a little more comfortable, I remember thinking, oh, okay, almost like now that I'm doing this, I feel okay to let that go.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how that went down.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Did it hurt when people were like, oh, are you still wrestling?
Holy
shit.
shit.
For a while,
man.
that's gotta be,
That was
we did it for 10 years. So you did the thing. And you know, there's a level with certain things. I think when you if you put that much effort into something and you can't take it to the next level, and you don't want to take it to a different level, you know, like a management level or a promoter level or something, if you don't want to be in that business of whatever that art form is or that craft is, then you have to make a decision to move on to something else, and then, you know, move on to something that makes more sense for you.
Yeah.
You know, mentally, physically, something that complements your abilities better. And so, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think when people actually give up on things, it's when they're really good at something and it scares them. Like they start to get a little bit of success, or they start to have good fortune in that area with that craft or that art or whatever it is. And it scares them a little bit because once you become successful at something, it also creates a lot of responsibility.
Scary.
And it can be overwhelming. And it's like that in business. Once you reach new levels in business, it gets scarier and scarier because you have more and more responsibilities.
Yeah.
So you have more on the line. And I've seen a lot of people in business, run away from that. And also in art, you see people that are really talented at certain things, and they reach this point where they're ready to take it to the next level, and they'll just go do something else.
Yep.
And it's like, what are you doing? Like, what? Like, you're so good at what you're doing, you should keep doing that. But it's the fear and doubt and distractions. And, so as I get older, I'm really cautious about what I invest my time in. Yeah. Because it's you only have so much of it, and it goes by really fast. And also, I'm also constantly gauging myself. Am I, like in comedy, am I getting better? Yeah. Where is this going? Mm-hmm. That sort of thing. Yep. And you really should be that way with everything. Yeah. You should be constantly trying to improve yourself in everything that you do, and finding new ways to add complexity to what you're doing too. Otherwise, you'll just stall out, and that's when you fail. Yeah. And I think authenticity is a big thing. And if you can't be authentic in what you're doing, then you got to reassess what you're doing. And I think with wrestling, I was not authentic ever. Okay. Well, not ever, because when I make jokes, about like being a bad guy in professional wrestling and like letting my anger out, that was probably the realest moment I ever had in professional wrestling was me being a heel and being mean to somebody. Yeah. Because I was letting out things that I don't ever get to let out. Right. But that was the only like authentic thing that I think I ever did. I think the reason why comedy has always been the way for me is because it allows me to be authentic. Yeah. And that does work for me. Yeah. I think if I started wrestling now, which would be horrible, but if I'm too old, but if I started wrestling now, the level of artistic and intuitive maturity that I have I would have done things a lot differently. Right, I think I would have been a lot more successful in that. Yeah.
It's kind of like if you had started comedy when you were that age, maybe you'd be saying that about comedy, and you'd be sitting here talking about wrestling.
That's exactly right, man. And
I took some life.
Although comedy has more longevity than wrestling.
That's true.
Yeah,
it's not physical.
Yeah, and I think that you're right, man. I think that I know that if I would have started comedy at 18. It would have been, dude, I had no point of view. I had nothing. Yeah. And I wasn't a funny enough, like a joke writer that I could have gotten away with all of that. Like I have to talk about perspective. Yeah. And I had none. Yeah. And so and for 10 years, my life was absolutely bonkers, batshit fucking crazy. It was, man.
That's good for comedy.
Yeah. And I think that I had to go through all of that to be able to do what I do now, because I carry all that over, right. And so I really do believe that. I think that sometimes when I say that, I've thought to myself, is that a cop out saying that? It's not. No. I really do think that I needed to go through everything that I went through.
And you probably have a lifetime worth of material just from those experiences.
I feel like every day for 10 years, and I mean this, dude, every day for 10 years was a new thing that happened that day. Crazy thing that happened that day. I'm a yes guy. I always have been. Always have been. And especially when I was single and I had no responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was, we're going to go to Mexico tonight.
You're always down.
Yeah. That's funny. I mean, I was down for anything. And that led to a lot of crazy stuff. A lot of things that are, I mean, just crazy stuff, man. We could get into it, but I think a lot of it's really inappropriate.
You kind of needed to get a little older too to look back on that and process it and be like, because that was just life back then. That was every day, and now it's like that is insane what happened, and now you can talk about it a lot and be funny.
Yep.
So
yeah, because before we wouldn't talk about it because it was like it was just something that happened.
Yeah, it was the 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's every day, man. Like every single day, something crazy happened. I mean, I remember almost every single day, I'd always think to myself, like, where am I? And why is this happening? What is going on right now?
It's like a Tarantino movie. You're in like the beginning. It's like, the timeline's all messed up. That was your everyday.
That was my everyday.
Funny.
My everyday was just another Tarantino script. and it was too, man. It was always crazy. It was always like, because first of all, pro wrestling, I don't know about now. I'm sure just like everything, it's calmer now. And it was calm when I got into it. People were like, wrestling's a lot calmer than it used to be. So, but like even when I was in it, it was, pro wrestling is all about partying and being on the show and being this like, because you're trying to be a larger than life character, you carry that over and everybody has these substance abuses and we all want to be this like amazing thing.
Yeah.
And so wrestling was just, it was partying. It was strip clubs. Like I always say, pro wrestling and strip clubs is like peanut butter and jelly. It's like, no, what is it? Like pro wrestling is like strip clubs and pro wrestling is like Pizza Hut after the Little League championship game. You know,
even if you lost,
you still go and
play with Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
They always said Mortal Kombat for some reason.
Yeah, or Street Fighter.
Yeah.
But it was just a crazy life, man. It was like as we're saying it, dude, I'm trying to come up with something, and dude, I have the Rolodex in my mind is there's so much, dude, to like draw from. I used to find roommates in the classified ads.
Oh wow!
So in San Diego. So like, and
that's more normal in bigger cities, though. I'm sure.
Maybe it is. Even when I was doing it, I thought it was crazy.
That's insane to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a roommate app now.
Yeah, for sure.
Or many. I'm sure.
I was looking for a roommate one time. I needed a place to live for a little while, and I was looking at the classified ads, and I found this ad, and I call this guy, and his name was okay, and I call him up, and I'm like, hey, I saw the ad in the paper for the roommate, and he's like, yeah, and I was like, so is it still open? He goes, yeah, come on down, and I came on down to his place, and it was like this. It was this building that was it was meant for businesses.
Yeah.
So it was a square building.
Commercial building.
It's a commercial building.
Yeah.
And somebody had made 2 apartment units out of the top right and the bottom left unit. So naturally, it's how you do. And I pull up and I'm like, I'm in the wrong place. This is not the place. And I call him.
Where am I?
Yeah. And I called him from a payphone because I didn't have a cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
wow.
And I was like, I'm across the street, I think. And he goes, you see the sign? I was like, what sign? He goes, American Universal. It's like American Universal. I look and I go, oh yeah, okay, right there. And I was like, okay. And I knock on the door. I come in and he tells me the whole deal, right? I live there. So this guy, I thought he was just like a security guy, like a security guard guy. He's like a 62-year-old old man, fucking Burt Reynolds mustache, the whole deal. And so I thought he was just a security guy. And then I come home from like a training or something one day, and it's the middle of the day, and the front door is locked, and I try to unlock it, but I don't have the key to the deadbolt. And so I'm like, I can't get in the place. And I was like, what the fuck? So I'm knocking, right? And then he opens the door and he goes, why didn't you tell me you were coming, man? And I was like, I didn't know. And I walk in and he's filming porn.
Oh.
He's filming 2 girls in the living room. And
really
I'm
was
like,
Burt Reynolds, Boogie
dude,
Nights.
yeah. And I go, in my head, I go, what the fuck is going on? But then the yes part was like, this is great. You know what I mean? Like, of course this is happening. Of course this is happening. I can't get away from this craziness, dude. And so yeah, he was a porn director. And I remember I have to, and I remember when the girls left, I came up to him and I go,
That explains the commercial building part of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I go, hey man, I go, what was that all about? I go, what was that? And he goes, well, you didn't know? And I was like, no, I didn't know. What do you mean? And he goes, my sign's out front. And I go, oh, American Universal. Dude, it was like a cardboard sign poster board that he bought from like Walmart and put block lettering on it that said American Universal. And I was supposed to know that was his porn company.
Yeah.
So
what's in the name?
My bad. My bad. And so I lived with that guy for a while.
You chose to stay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, dude, I lived there for like 8 months.
Wow.
He also ran. He was the landlord too, right? So he also ran the other unit on the top right, and there was an apartment, and so he had nothing but drug addicts and hookers that lived there. And so I remember the first time I came. It'd always be when I come home for something, and I needed to take a shower because I'd just been wrestling for hours, and I went to go in the bathroom, and he goes, "Hold on, man." He goes, "Don't go in there." And I was like, "Oh shit, did you take a shit or something?" You know what I mean? And he was like, "No." And I heard the shower start, and I go, "Oh, you got somebody over? Hell yeah, man!" And he goes, "It's just the girl from upstairs. She's a hooker." And I was like, "Okay."
All right.
And
so you guys had one shower, like a central shower you had to use?
No, I think they were having sex, and then she wanted to take a shower there rather than go up to her own place.
Oh, there was a shower upstairs too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Each apartment unit had their own shower, but like.
So he let someone in your apartment?
Yeah. Yeah, well, he was my roommate.
Oh, he shared that apartment with you?
Yeah. So and I were roommates, but he was also the landlord.
Wow.
So
that's the definition of a successful landlord.
Oh, dude, he was great, man. And then after a few months, he left. So he moved away. He was still the landlord, but he told me, he goes, "I'm moving to Vegas, man." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "I got to take this to the next level." Oh. And I was like, "Good for you." And so he moves away. He moves to Vegas, and this guy named moves in. Okay. Now, was probably in his mid-50s, but he was a photographer for like hair metal bands back in the 80s.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's got pictures of him with like, I don't know what bands they were, but like a Motley Crue type band in like Taiwan.
Hey, baby.
Oh. Yeah. And he would show me all these pictures of like all these countries he'd been to and all these bands he was whatever. So he was like successful back in the day.
Yeah.
But now he's divorced. That's why he moved in. He's divorced. He had all this money and all this shit that he ended up moving in this now this is 2004. He moved in like an 80-inch television. Like the old, like big screen box ones.
Yeah.
And he moved that. Dude, we had this tiny, shitty 2-bedroom apartment, bro. It was so bad. And now we have these. He brought a portable bar. We had 2 elephant tusks that he had on the side of the television. Like this guy was like had money at some point, right? But now he's divorced. He's hooked on meth, and he drinks about a fifth of Pop vodka a day, right?
I've never even heard of that.
I haven't either.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's very cheap.
I assume that. Yeah.
And so would be up all the time, and he was crazy, right? He was crazy, and he'd be up all the time, obviously. And I remember he would always like. So one day, okay, so again the Rolodex, so much. So I'm asleep one night, okay. And Andy and I became good friends. He was a maniac and he was crazy drug. We became friends. And he felt so comfortable that he would just come into my room sometimes and wake me up. You know, like that kind of, yeah. So I'm sleeping, and I used to sleep on a futon mattress on the floor. That's all I had. And I was sleeping on my back, and he wakes me up. So he's got his whole body, his legs, he's over the top of me. Right? And he's like, his hands are on his knees and his face is in my face. And he's going, Jeremy. And he's trying to get me awake, but he's trying to be quiet about it. So I finally wake up. My eyes get really, they must have. They got real big, and I'm like looking at him because he's like this far in front of my face. And I go, what the fuck? And he goes, there's cops outside. And I was like, I don't think there's probably not cops outside. I think you're fine. He's a paranoid, at this point, he may as well have been a paranoid schizophrenic. And I was like, I think you're fine. He goes, I'm telling you, they're outside right now, right outside of our window. And I was like, okay, I'll check. Like he was like my kid, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I'll
the
check to make
monster
sure the
under the
monster
bed.
is not in the closet.
Yeah.
And so I got out of my room and I walk into the living room, and there's these headlights that are shining into our apartment, right? Because like it was a business building, and so we had this big sliding glass door that, and it's a parking lot. So this cop had parked and is shining his lights through our apartment. Like we can see it's like so bright in there.
Yeah.
And I in my head I go, oh shit, there's cops outside. So I look out and I go, and I got really like, I started really thinking, and I was like, okay, rationally, like, come on, like, yeah, there's a cop outside, but there's also a Sombreros right across the street, which is a burrito shop.
Yeah.
And so
No idea.
the cop didn't know anybody lived there.
Because it's a business.
Yeah,
building.
so he just got his burrito or whatever, and then parked right in front of our shit.
Yeah.
And just left his lights on while he's eating his fucking dinner. And I was trying to explain this to and he's freaking out. And then in the middle of me trying to calm him down, he freaks out, goes into the kitchen, starts like messing around with pots and pans. And then he comes out of the kitchen and he goes, you know what? I'm glad he's outside. I'm glad. You know what? We're safe. That means we're safe, right? And I was like, right. And, you know, that's just a random story. But like that, I lived with for like probably 5 months. Yeah, dude. Like
My roommate had a cat.
That's funny.
Oh, so
I've never had a roommate.
never?
No, well, when I was 18, I moved in with a buddy of mine for a year, and
And you were like, "Fuck that."
it was actually pretty awesome. We had
Yeah?
a pretty good deal, but then I moved out after a year, and then moved back in with my parents. And I mean, I could have lived on my own, but I didn't want to rent.
Yeah.
I ended up buying a house when I was 22, and I
That's
bought
good.
it as a rental property though, and I just rented it out, and I still live with my parents.
That's cool.
And then I finally, but I got along well with my parents, so it wasn't, you know, and I wasn't like, I didn't party at home and stuff.
you
know,
weren't a deadbeat kid that wasn't doing anything.
yeah, I was always
Yeah.
working and busy,
Yeah.
and
You slept at your parents' house, is what you did, pretty much.
yeah,
Kept
I
the
had
stuff there.
'cause I started my first. I had a decent job, and I started my first business when I was 22, and then when I was 24, I bought a townhouse and moved out. Yeah, finally.
Damn.
But I just felt like it was time to make the move. But,
Yeah.
Anyways, roommates, guys. Roommates.
Yeah,
You know, roommates.
which is crazy that you were in these situations because of where you came from. Because your childhood, your dad was a professional bowler, right?
yeah, my dad was
Wait, really?
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my dad was a pro bowler, and yeah, I had a great. I had the best childhood, and I mean that, dude. Like, I'm one of the only comics, I think, one of the few comics that like my childhood was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It was really my trauma didn't happen until later.
Yeah.
You know, my dad was a pro bowler, and he owned a bowling pro shop inside of a bowling alley, and so I grew up like what would you call that, white collar, like blue collar. I grew up
collar,
very,
yeah.
you know,
Upper middle class.
everybody
probably.
loved Poison and Motley Crue and fucking, you know, Aerosmith. Like I grew up, you know, in the bowling alley bars. But I had a great childhood and a very sheltered childhood. I always felt like as a kid, I had this want to know what the world was like.
Yeah.
You know, like
you seemed like when you were young, you were very naive. Like you had a lot of naivety.
Very.
And that's why you ended up in these crazy situations.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just trusted people.
Yeah. And I was very naive as a kid. And there was this thing where when I moved to California, I moved to Orange County 2 weeks after I turned 18. I was gone, right? And I wanted to let loose, dude. I wanted to. When I say like monster or beast, that sounds a little too negative, but I have this beast. I have this thing inside of me, dude, that like I had to express. I had to open up the fucking door and just let it all go, because I had felt so. Nobody suppressed me as a kid. I felt just that where I grew up and where I was at was just very suppressive, and so. Yeah, when I moved away, dude, I went crazy.
Your life was a little too vanilla as a kid.
Exactly.
And then, yeah.
So I was a yes man. If you were like, hey, we're gonna go, I don't know, do some crazy shit. I can't think of anything else but strip clubs right now. But it was like, you know, let's go do this crazy thing in this crazy place with these crazy people. And I'm like, why wouldn't we do that? You know, like I was ready to let my freak
It was
fly.
like you were in a fraternity for 10 years.
That's yeah.
Basically,
you know,
whereas me, I had plenty of drama growing up, like trauma, and it was just, you know, like so I would say that I was a happy kid,
mm-hmm.
but I'm also naturally optimistic.
Yeah.
And I was loved. My they always loved me, and I love them. I'm very close to my parents. Like they're two of the closest people in my life.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, though, we were poor. My parents were under a lot of financial stress. It was a different time. They were from a really difficult time. Their childhoods were both very traumatic and difficult. So they did a lot better with me than what they experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a fairly dysfunctional family and dealt with a lot of stuff. So I went through all these issues as a kid and being around some crazy situations, some crazy people and stuff. So when I was an adult, I wasn't having it. You know, like if I ran into somebody like these people, I'd be like, I'm going to get the fuck away from these people.
Yeah.
Like these people are trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had my shit together at an early age, but I was already working as a kid, you know, as a teenager.
Yeah.
I was already working, paying my own bills, buying my own clothes. I was very self-sufficient at an early age. So by the time I was 18, 19 years old, I feel like a grown man. You know, I feel like I was already like an adult. I was more mature than some of the people I worked with that were in their 30s. You know, and I felt like, because I wasn't naive about stuff. I mean, I still had some naivety, but I had some experience too.
Yeah.
And I think that made me avoid a lot of those really bad situations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too, man. I think that was forced out of you at an early age.
Yeah. I had to grow up fast.
Yeah. Yeah, that's man, you know, learning that. So this is the crazy thing about like opening yourself up and like doing whatever all the time. The problem is when I started doing that, I was old enough to do things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like when I was exploring myself or exploring my brain, like that's how I became an alcoholic. And that's how because I was able to process my trauma in a way that I may have not been able to as a younger child.
Yeah.
You know? And so, you know, like the things that happened to me, you know, with my family and all these things, it's like, if that happened to me at an earlier age, it would have been rough, but I'm not sure if I would have been through the crazy situations I was in my 20s, because I wouldn't have been able to express myself in that way.
Yeah.
But being able to be old enough to buy alcohol or you can go anywhere you want to, basically. It fed so much of that like trauma. It also fed like the need for me to want to experience the world, you know?
Yeah.
And so I definitely think that
you were told as a kid, don't put your hand on the oven, and then the stovetop, and then you got older and you're like, let's find out why.
Yep.
Okay, that's why.
How bad does it actually hurt?
Yeah.
I touched it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
I really did. That really happened.
Did you?
Just grabbed it, let it sizzle.
My
steaks.
My mom said, don't touch this hot. And I was like, hot? You know, and I kept saying it, and I touched it.
What does hot mean?
It was screaming hot.
Damn,
I was like, oh, yeah, that's what that means.
What that means.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's learning things.
Sounds like we had pretty similar childhoods, Jeremy.
You think so, bro?
Pretty safe.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah, smaller area.
Yeah.
You know,
small, safe. Not really. I can't really think of anything traumatic.
I had good aunts and uncles. I had, you know, like it was
everybody in my life had their shit together for the most part. So.
And if they didn't, I believe that they did.
Yeah.
You know, like now I know.
Yes, exactly. And you get older, and then I'll think back of some things that, like, obviously nobody ever abused me or anything like that. But it's like you get older and you just think back, it's like, that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
Just something.
Normal's a broad spectrum.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right, man. It's growing up, I didn't know I was none the wiser.
Yeah.
It was I trusted everybody.
Yeah, same.
I
still kind of do that a little.
I have an issue with that too. Yeah. I trusted everybody. And but again, which is why when shit went crazy, like my parents got divorced, all this crazy shit happened to my family, it like was very traumatizing because I had grown up so safe, you know, and
Yeah.
and so, but I, you know, it's funny too though. Before my parents got divorced and all these things, I was doing crazy shit, but I always had known that the world was also simple because my family and my everything.
Yeah.
And then when that went away, I was like, oh, so we're all just fucked up. And then I just went crazy, dude, you know? And I, yeah. But
Like that safety net had went away.
it went away,
right?
dude.
Yeah.
Yep. And I was like, oh, I guess we're all fucked, you
Yeah.
know? And then, yeah, it really led towards some great experiences because I'm glad that I went through all the negative and the positive, but like, yeah, at the time it was like, damn, dude, am I really fucking, you know?
That's almost worse than, in some ways, that's worse than what I experienced because we didn't, like to begin with, I didn't have anything. You know what I mean? Like life was always kind of hard and my parents weren't lazy people. They were very hard workers. Like they worked really hard to provide and keep us afloat and keep us alive. But it was still very difficult, and we were often in difficult situations. I mean, we lived in one place my whole childhood, which was incredible.
Yeah, me too.
And
Same.
we lived in a really tiny house the first 8 years of my life. No running water. You know, we had an outhouse and all this stuff. I've got the bits about it, but and then my parents built a new house on the same property when I was 8. And my dad actually built most of the house. And that was a big deal. That was like for me, that was like a new chapter, like a better chapter in life. And it was still, it was still a very meager existence, I guess, but a humble, you know, but for me, it was like great.
Yeah.
It was
I'm rich.
yeah, it was so much better. But there was still like, I guess domestic issues and dysfunction in our family and our household. But and you know, life didn't really get that much easier either. I always felt the financial stress and pressure of life, and it's a really heavy weight that a lot of people, unless you grow up in poverty or grow up poor, you don't really feel it or understand it.
Yeah.
But it's like a constant pressure, and it's almost like a fear. But my parents always did a great job of providing and making me at least have some sense of security and safety.
Yeah.
And then once I started working on my own, I felt a lot better. You know, so like
well, the power was in your hands at that point. You could make your,
or at least, you know,
your
a lot of it,
reality.
part of it,
Yeah.
a good portion of it. So,
Man.
yeah.
I started working when I was 15. Of course, I worked for the bowling alley.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny too because like I had technically been working there since I was 6.
Which gave you it still gave you a good work ethic and a sense of independence. So
yes.
So when you did move out, even though you went through a lot of crazy situations, you were always self-sufficient. You always,
yes. My mom will tell you too. She goes, Jeremy always had a job. She'll always say he always had a job.
That's such a mom thing to say.
And it's great that you had your parents too to call them if you did have an issue.
We treated the first few years of me in wrestling school and wrestling as though I was in college. That's how we treated it. So if I called and I was like, I need $300 to fix my car, they would help me out.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and
good.
that was very supportive, and I needed every second of that.
Yeah.
You know. So that was nice. That was really good. Yeah. Yeah, I you know.
And that's, you know, something that simple is really a lot of times the thing that can prevent someone from being okay or being a meth addict.
Absolutely, man.
It's a big deal because a lot of people don't have a safety net at all. There's no security net, so they get out there on their own. They're like, oh, I don't know anything. No one else knows anything.
Life's hard.
I don't have any qualifications. I didn't have a decent place to launch from.
Yep.
I'm fucked.
Yep. And then substance becomes a very important part of your life because it's the only thing that makes all that okay.
Well, they do something like heroin or, you know, one of these hard drugs, and it makes them feel good, and they're like, oh, this feels way better than this terrible life that I'm living, and it's just a downward spiral.
Yep. This is the only thing that makes this shitty life I'm living okay.
We have to do better as a society. Yeah,
That's eliminating poverty, right? Like we talk about.
Yeah, we're poor stewards of our blessings.
Yes. Oh,
yeah,
man.
That's you had a lot of interesting experiences. That'll all those things are very helpful to you now, I'm sure.
They are, man. I don't think that's crazy to say that. I don't think about that a lot, but I think they are very helpful. I think that I mean, it's definitely like I am who I was at 10. I'm still me, you know, but it has shaped my
well, you have different perspective now.
Yes, it's shaped my perspectives on things. And so I'm still me, but I have all these different experiences that have added to the meanness, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for these experiences. Now, if you talked to me 5, 6, 7 years ago, I may not have said the same thing.
Right.
Because I was still so sad about everything else.
Yeah, yeah.
But I truly believe this, man. And I say this to people, man. I'm fired up. I say this to people all the time. I go, people who and you don't have to just graduate high school. This could be any point in your life, but especially when you're like just out of high school. I tell people, I go, what do you want to do? And they go, well, I want to go, you know, paint in New York, or whatever the thing is. And I go, then you better go do it.
Right. Yeah.
Then you better go do it, because if you don't do this, if you don't do it now, then all the stuff that you maybe want to do later on, you won't do. It's almost like it's like yesterday when I was telling you about when I wake up in the morning and I have to work out first thing. If I don't work out first thing, then the whole day's fucked.
Yeah.
And I can't. I'll eat. I'll go to fucking Sheets and I'll get a whatever fried because I already screwed up. You know. I really do believe that when you first get out in the world, you're free to do it. You got to do it. Even if it doesn't pan out, you know that it's possible, and you started that momentum of your adult brain of being like, oh, okay, if I want to do something, I can just go do it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I've known throughout the years that didn't do things, and it's okay if you don't, but I think about when they tell me, man, I really want to do this now. I want to do that. But they don't think it's possible. And it's because they never, at the time that you are so optimistic, you need to do that.
Yeah.
Because it sets the tone for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And it's a lot easier to do things when you're young.
Yes. Yes.
You have like your 20s are like a really special time because your mind is so plastic. Your body feels so good.
Yep. And you remember your 20s for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like I remember my entire life. I have a very great memory for that. But there is something about ages 12 to 25. Those years, man, I can tell you every single little thing almost day to day that happened from age 12 to 25.
They're still exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 26 now. And I can't remember
it's over.
something that happened last week. It's like, oh shit, what happened?
Your mind is matured.
But I can remember a specific day I had in 7th
I'll be right
grade.
back.
Dude, yeah, it is. It's so crazy. So I do believe, man, that, and again, you can do things later in life, but I do think it's a lot harder for you to get the oomph to go do those things if you didn't. Like you're 26, and you and I never really talked about what you did before this, but you've obviously moved here. Yeah. And you're wanting to pursue comedy. You're doing these things. And that's so important, man. Because if you try to do this 15 years from now, it's so much easier to tell yourself to like talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
You know? But because you've already went and did it and went out there and did something, now I think for the rest of your life, if you want to do something, you're more likely to go do it rather than to not.
Yeah, this was like the first time, like moving here and moving to a place where I know absolutely no one and getting a job that I really, really like is like the first time in my life where I was like, oh, you can just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
And like before it was like, oh, I don't know, you got to know someone or blah, 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 like talk yourself out of it.
Yep.
And then it's like, I don't know. I owe a lot of it to my wife because she was like, we're moving to Greensboro. And I was like, okay.
That's so cool, dude. That's so cool.
And then after that, I was like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do with your life, or me specifically.
Go get it.
Yeah,
you know, and go get it doesn't always have to be moving away. For us, it did, but it's like like, you know, I got friends who want to go to school for certain things, and I go, then do it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's financial issues, but like, if there's something you want to do, just do it. Just do it. And now I say this now because I'm okay with not being, with not pursuing wrestling after we know, but like, I know this now, like if I didn't do wrestling, there is no fucking way I would have ever done stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
No way I would have ever done it, because I would have had the same mentality. You grew up in a small town. I grew up in it was a small town.
Yeah.
But like, you don't think that's possible. Like when you're like, I got to know somebody, right, to do this thing. And it's like, no. When my buddy Cody told me in biology class in sophomore year of high school, when he said, you could just go to this school and pay them money. And I was like, so wait, I can just move to California, find a place to live. You can just do that. And then I can just go to this place and be like, hi, my name's Jeremy, and I want to be a wrestler. And they're going to be like, yeah, $500 right now. That's all I got to do?
Yeah.
Done.
It's like, I don't know what it is. I think I mean, whether the thing you try to do ends up being a success or a failure or whatever, and I'm only fucking 26, so, you know, but I feel like that we talk ourselves out of doing stuff a lot because we're failure sounds scary. It sounds scary. And then like that thing when people are like, hey, you still wrestling? And it's just like, that's scary.
Yeah.
And like, hey, Seth, you still doing this, blah, blah, blah. And that's really, really scary to me. And then it's like, I think a big thing I'm learning being on my own out here and whatever is like, failure is not as scary as you think it is. Cause like, how am I supposed to learn from anything if I just, I don't know, everything works out. It's just like,
it does.
Because it doesn't all the time. And then when it doesn't, are you going to be like, well, I guess I'll fucking quit? Or are you going to be like, well, let's work on this and figure it out? And that was a big thing when I was younger. I was just like, well, I'm not good at this the first time I tried it. Guess I suck. Never going to do it again. And then it wasn't until I got older. It was like, oh, this is what practice is.
Practice is failing.
Yeah, people get better at stuff by losing. I don't know what it was that took so long to click, but like as a kid, I was like, oh, you're supposed to pick up a basketball and be really good immediately.
Yeah, dude.
And it's like, no, it's never been the case for anyone in history ever.
What's the old saying? The master has failed more than the student has ever tried.
Wow, yeah, that makes sense.
You know, and that's
a good one.
And I think that when you said that maybe failure isn't so scary, I think what we realized at that point is failure's not scary. It's the putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
To fail is scary. That's.
What's that movie? There's some movie quote. I don't even think I've seen the movie. I think it was something Miss Sunshine or whatever. It's like losers are the ones who don't try or whatever. I've never seen the movie, so I don't want to like say, oh, this is a great, you know, but I was just like, oh, that, you know, I never really thought of that.
I have to say, failure is scary, by the way.
Yeah.
Failure is terrifying.
Yeah.
I've failed.
When there's a lot on the line,
I've failed many times. And it's always, when there's a lot on the line, it's always scary. But it's also good for you, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can overcome it and, you come out of it with a lot of new knowledge and understanding and perspective, and it really makes you a better person. It's sort of like it's like the hammer beating the sword, you know.
Impurities out of the iron.
It's like every time we get on stage, we tell a joke and it bombs. You go, well, I'm not saying it like that again. Well, I guess I learned. I'm not saying it like that ever again.
That's also a big thing too that taught me to get over like stuff not working immediately was comedy, because it was like, come back, do it again. Yeah. Different this time. Don't suck again.
Yeah.
And
even if it sucks again, at least it was a different
kind of suck.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I've seen some people just keep doing the same one over and over again.
Yeah.
It's always the same.
It's not going to change if you don't change it.
Yeah.
And
that's a big thing for me with like a lot of figuring out adult stuff. Oops. See, I just failed right now. I hit the wrong button. I had a camera on an empty seat. We're all right. Nobody died.
You know what? You learned from that, didn't you? We learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's the editor too, so that's.
Yeah, I could take it out if I wanted to.
He's like, nobody will know ever.
Yeah, but it fits perfectly with what we're talking about. I might keep it. I don't know.
I got to wrap this thing up, but
Right.
we'll have you back on. This is sort of like the introduction of who you are. So next time we'll talk about some more
we
current
just
stuff.
scratched the surface.
Yeah, man. Yes, the surface has been scratched, man. We'll open up the lid next time maybe, and we'll pull out a few other things, and we'll. There's and I've said this at nausea. Well, not nausea, but when people ask and we talk about it, I always say, look, I probably have enough stories I don't know how many hours we could sit here, but like, because every day was like a new crazy fucking weird crazy thing that happened, we could sit here forever, and I would love to, but that's because I like talking about myself. But like, we all do. But no, man, thank you so much, dude. Like,
thank you, man.
I've been wanting to get here and have this discussion. So this has been great. I can't wait to come back.
Yeah, sure. Tell people how they can follow you.
You can follow me on Facebook. My name Jeremy Nelson, at Jeremy Nelson Stand Up on Instagram, and
give us your address and your social security.
Yes, so it is
credit card numbers.
Yeah, 79. No, but yeah, just follow me on social media. I don't post as much as I should, but me moving here is for me to improve my comedy and how I present myself. So there'll be a lot more on social media from me. But yeah, just follow me on there, and you'll see where I'm at and see what we're doing. So
awesome.
Respect.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Respect.